All right, so picture this. It's 7 a.m. I'm still half asleep standing on my own porch with a mug of black coffee, and there's Diane Foster, the HOA president, grinning at me like she's auditioning for Stepford Wives' Suburbia's Revenge. She's got this leather folder tucked under her arm, and she's telling me dead serious that my 70-year-old barn needs repainting because the red paint clashes with our community design palette. I almost choked on my coffee. I mean, really, what's next? My chickens need to be color coordinated too. She starts talking about earth tones, beige, taupe, soft gray, like I'm supposed to nod and thank her for this unsolicited lecture. And here's the kicker, I'm not even in her damn HOA. Never was, never wanted to be. But Diane's smile doesn't budge. Your property is within our covenant boundaries, she says. Everyone contributes to community standards. Right then I realized I was dealing with the kind of person who irons her socks and alphabetizes her spice rack and thinks she can run your life by committee. Thing is, Diane didn't know the half of it. See my family trust. We own the mortgage on her entire neighborhood. $12 million worth, 12 months behind $180,000 in arrears. But Diane, she thought strong-arming me, threatening lawsuits and dangling some $100,000 finder's fee from a developer would get me to cave to sell the land. She thought the world worked on intimidation and paperwork. But that's the funny thing about power, you never know who actually holds it. By the time I found her secret contract buried in a storage unit she thought nobody'd ever find, it was already way, way too late for Diane. Let's rewind just a little so you see how all this started. My grandfather died and left me 15 acres and a crooked old farmhouse up on a hill. The kind of place where summer smells like cut grass and every board creaks with memories. That land's been in our family since 1952. Back then, everything around here was just open fields, barns, maybe a couple of stubborn cows. Fast forward to now, those fields are gone. 8 years ago, a developer bulldozed the place, built 47 identical houses with plastic mailboxes and fake shutters, and called it Meadowbrook Estates. My farmhouse, my red barn, they're all that's left, like a stubborn tooth in a perfect row of veneers. I moved in after my grandpa's funeral, started painting the barn just like he used to. Red as a cardinal, stubborn as hell. By the second day, the neighbors were driving past slow, craning their necks, whispering. On day 8, Diane shows up, gives me that smile. Your barn is visible from the street. The red clashes with the community palette. We prefer earth tones. I laughed, probably not the reaction she wanted. It's a barn, I said. It's supposed to be red. She hands me this stack of architectural guidelines. Fencing, paint colors, landscaping. I told her straight, I'm not in your HOA. That's when her smile faded just a little. Your property borders our community, she insisted. You affect our property values. You're within our covenant boundary. My family's owned this place since Truman was president. Your HOA popped up 5 minutes ago. But Diane's the type who'll argue with a brick wall. She sets her packet on my porch and leaves in her shiny white Lexus. 2 days later, the first letter arrives. Notice of violation. Unapproved barn color, unapproved fencing, no architectural review, $500 fine, ticking up $100 a day. Next week, another letter. The fines doubled. Then they threatened to put a lien on my property. I called my lawyer, Marcus Webb, a guy who eats HOAs for breakfast. They can't just claim you're in their HOA if you never agreed to it, he said. Let me dig up the documents. If they file a lien, we'll get it tossed. In the meantime, he tells me, don't pay a dime. A week later, Diane's back. This time she's brought 2 board members, a guy in a golf shirt and a lady with a tablet. They crowd in my driveway like they're staging a coup. We need to discuss your non-compliance, Diane says. I remind her, not my HOA, not my circus, not my monkeys. But she waves a document in my face. When Meadowbrook Estates was developed, all surrounding properties were included in the master plan. You're within the covenant boundary. I asked to see it. The paper says all properties in this giant hand-drawn blob, including mine, are under HOA authority. My grandfather never signed this, I told her. Doesn't matter, she shrugs. County approved it when the development was filed. 10 days to comply or they'd take legal action. I called Marcus. He asked if my grandpa ever signed anything. No, never. Then the covenant doesn't apply, he said. But out of curiosity, I asked Marcus to look into how that development was financed. Sometimes you just get a hunch. Turns out Meadowbrook Estates was built with a $12 million loan mortgage not on the homes, but on the street's pool and clubhouse. The HOA was on the hook for $15,000 a month. Default and the lender could foreclose on the entire neighborhood's common areas. But here's the twist: the original lender had sold that mortgage. To whom? Cascade Holdings, LLC. That's my family's company. My uncle runs it through the trust. I called him up. Do we own the Meadowbrook Estates mortgage? He tapped on his computer. Yeah. We bought a bunch of these distressed HOA loans back in 2020. Meadowbrook's 12 months delinquent. We're about to start foreclosure. I stared out the window at the red barn and realized these people had no idea who they were picking a fight with. The lien came right on schedule, $2,800 in bogus fines. Marcus filed to get it tossed and asked for proof my property was ever in their covenant. But the HOA wasn't waiting for court. Tom, one of the board members, the only one with a conscience I'd learned, called me one night. They had a special board meeting, he said. Diane called your place the Farmhouse problem. They want to force you out. Voted to raise your fines to $500 per day. That's $182,500 a year for owning a barn. A week later, a lawsuit arrived. Repaint the barn. Rip out the fence. Pay $15,000 in fines. Or alternatively, let the HOA buy me out at fair market value. Their complaint called my property an eyesore detrimental to property values. I stared at my grandfather's barn, still red, still defiant, and told Marcus to file a motion to dismiss and start discovery. I wanted to see exactly how they thought they had authority over me. What we got back from discovery was gold. Back in 1985, my grandfather sold most of the land to a developer, but carved out 15 acres, the farmhouse, the barn, everything that mattered, and made damn sure in writing that it was free from any covenants, restrictions, or encumbrances related to future development. But in 2016, when Meadowbrook Estates was built, the developer tried to sneak all 60 acres, including my 15, into their HOA boundary. Fraud, plain and simple. Marcus's counterclaim laid it all out: the fraudulent covenant, the harassment, and crucially, the fact that my family trust held their mortgage and could foreclose on everything they considered theirs. We demanded they drop the lawsuit, remove the lien, pay their arrears, and cover my legal fees. That news landed like a bomb at their emergency board meeting. Tom called me voice, half shocked, half impressed. Greg read the counterclaim, and when he got to the part about Cascade Holdings, Diane just about fainted. Our attorney checked. It's true. You could foreclose and own the whole place. Diane went pale as a ghost. 10 minutes after I hung up with Tom, Diane called me. Her voice suddenly small, nervous. We need to talk. I told her I offered to talk. You sued me instead, but now she wanted to settle. I named my price, drop the suit, remove the lien, admit you were wrong, pay your mortgage, and fire yourself. When the board and their new lawyer came to my farmhouse, we went through their finances. Turned out Diane was running a racket. Her management company, her son's landscaping company, both raking in inflated fees. Out of $16,450 in monthly dues, almost half was going straight to Diane and her family. That's why the mortgage wasn't being paid. That's why the HOA was broke. Marcus flipped through their records, found a special assessment from last year, $2,000 per home for emergency repairs. $94,000 collected. Only $30,000 spent. The rest funneled to Diane's management company for project management. It was embezzlement, clear as day. Greg called for a vote on the spot. Diane fought it, of course she did, but was outvoted and removed as president. We hammered out a settlement. Diane pays back $100,000. The HOA pays the mortgage arrears over time. They hire real management, and all claims against my property are dropped. The board agreed. Diane unsurprisingly refused. I warned them if she won't pay, I'll foreclose and sue her for fraud. She lawyered up, then declared bankruptcy. But fraud's not so easy to wipe away in bankruptcy court, especially when you've got a paper trail. Marcus filed the foreclosure. The HOA called a meeting. Greg explained to the homeowners how Diane had been siphoning money for years. Outrage doesn't even begin to cover it. Mediation followed. We cut a deal. Diane pays what she can. The HOA gets 5 years to pay off their arrears, and the lien on my property is wiped clean. Best of all, my farmhouse is officially recognized as separate from the HOA forever. They sent me a formal apology, posted it on their website, mailed it to every homeowner. Diane's name scrubbed from everything. Her management company fired. Real vendors hired, costs slashed, and suddenly, miraculously, the HOA could pay their bills again. But here's the twist. 3 months later, Greg finds a storage unit Diane rented in the HOA's name. Inside, boxes of records, contracts, emails, meeting notes. At the bottom, one contract 8 months older than her first visit to my door. Diane had been working with a developer, Sunrise Communities, to sell my land for a subdivision with a $100,000 finder's fee for herself. Her whole campaign, every fine, every threat, every bogus legal move was just to force me out so she could cash in. We brought it to court. Marcus made sure the judge saw every dirty email, every plan. Diane's attorney tried to spin it, but you can't explain away an email that says, "Don't worry, I'll get rid of him." They always do. The judge ruled it was intentional fraud, ordered Diane to pay $150,000 in non-dischargeable debt. She sold off her rental properties to cover it. Sunrise Communities paid out $200,000 to the HOA for their own role in the scheme. Diane pled guilty to misdemeanor embezzlement, got probation, lost her real estate license. She's gone no power, no money, no audience. And my farmhouse, still standing, barn as red as ever, flowers blooming along the old split-rail fence. A property appraiser told me historic farms like yours add value to these neighborhoods. It's a selling point. Funny, right? Everything Diane wanted destroyed made this place more valuable. The HOA under Greg runs like it should quiet. Boring efficient. They cut dues, post every expense, never hide a thing. Kids from the neighborhood come by to see the chickens. I host farm tours on weekends sometimes. Sometimes I think about how close I came to losing it all. Most people don't have the leverage I had. Most folks give up when an HOA pushes because they're outnumbered, outspent, outlawyered. I got lucky. I created a website, Know Your Property Rights, just to help other folks in the same bind. Turns out this happens more than you'd think. Your story gave me the courage to fight, one woman wrote from Texas. And the moral, don't assume the people in charge are telling the truth. Power's just a story people agree to believe until someone checks the paperwork. My grandfather taught me, know what you own. Fight for what matters. Don't let money or bullies decide your legacy. A couple years on Sunrise Communities tried one last time, offered me $3 million for the farm. I laughed. It's not for sale, I told them. My nephew visits every weekend, now helps feed the chickens, learns to paint a barn, listens to the old stories. That's the real inheritance. That's what I fought for. Some nights I sit on the porch at Sunset Barn, glowing red in the light, the sign at the driveway reading Mitchell Family Farm established 1952, protected forever. And I think, yeah, maybe justice doesn't always show up in a cape, but sometimes karma drives a white Lexus and gets exactly what's coming. But here's my question for you. Where's the line between protecting a community and abusing power? Should we trust leaders just because they say they're looking out for us? Or is it on us to demand proof? I'd love to hear your stories. When did you stand up to a bully or see justice done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And let's talk about what real justice looks like, neighbor to neighbor.